Hi, so I'm going to quickly talk about the software life cycle lecture. First of all, just from the first few minutes of the lecture, I don't think that in a project that we're doing in this class that we would use the waterfall method just because our project isn't life critical and it's not putting thousands of dollars at stake. When talking about the four pillars of software, I do remember somewhat implementing the anticipate diversity pillar into CS 220, 225 projects. For example, when we would display an error to the user if they entered a number instead of a word, or if there was an invalid character in input, or if they were inputting an email and it didn't have the @ sign or something like that. And also, after listening to the lecture, I feel that it's really important to understand what model your project is going to need because there are pros and cons behind every model. And I feel like you would want to choose the one in which the pros will outweigh the cons when it comes to implementation. And although I haven't had any software internship experience, I feel like a pillar I use every day at my job in the office right now is utilizing standards. Every day I'm writing guides and manuals on how to do something, uh, and something I try my best to do is to make everything I write consistent and readable, just because I know at some point there will be someone else in my place who will then have to use what I've written in order to learn how to access a class roster or how to verify prerequisites. And if everything that I write is written differently, then it's going to make life a lot more difficult for whoever takes my place and has to read what I've written. And one of the classic mistakes that I've experienced just in the beginning of my time working in the office was I used to only use the small student laptop to do pretty big projects on Google Sheets where it would have uh, hundreds and hundreds of rows with students' names, and it was really difficult to view a census with hundreds of students on such a small screen. But luckily, my supervisor had the resources to get me a monitor, and using a dual screen during these big projects makes life a whole lot easier. And something that I learned in CS 220, 225 with the no version control, classic mistake. In the beginning, I was always terrified to change anything about my code because I was afraid of messing it up and having it not work anymore. And actually, going off of that, I did spill water on my laptop a couple weeks ago, but luckily I had everything backed up, so that's no problem. But yeah, that is what I took away from this lecture.